Episode 3 begins now. Today, we are talking about the Tigers getting blown out again by the Royals. Ausar, Thompson, and Marcus Sasser do not make an all-rookie team. And we're going to take a look at the Detroit Lions depth chart.
And there's the snap. Blitz comes. Mayfield back. Loads. Throws. Picked up by the Lions. Intercepted by the Lions. Intercepted by the Lions. Derek Barnes. Derek Barnes. Derek Barnes. Reggie Miller. And it's blocked again. What a block.
Lead pass in for Larkin. In space for Raymond. And he scores! Lucas Raymond!
Welcome back to Detroit Sports Talk. I am your host, Bobby Buckets, and I want to thank you for taking the time to talk some Detroit sports today. Be sure to like the show, subscribe to the channel, comment your thoughts on today's topics, and reach out to me on Twitter at Bobby Buckets. It was a wild start to the conference finals last night. Celtics are now up 1-0 over the Pacers. They had to force overtime last night. Really good game. I mean, really exactly what you could hope for in a playoff basketball game, especially a conference finals game. However, gave out my first gambling plays last night and they lost. So hope you didn't tail. Celtics -10 did not hit as the Celtics won by 5. If you took the teaser that I came up with, it would have been a push on Celtics -5. So lost Celtics -10, push on Celtics -5. But I'm still going to stick with the Mavs at +4.5 tonight. Still sticking with my same logic of T-Wolves just played 7 games, coming off of less rest than the Mavericks. So I'm taking Mavericks +4.5. We're either going to go 1-1 with my Game 7 logic, or we're going to start off 0-2 in my gambling advice career. If you didn't see the end of the game, highly suggest looking up the YouTube highlights, really watching the whole thing. But, I mean, the game started with a steal on the Celtics end, pushing it in transition. And I think it was Tatum who hit Brown, and Brown went up right-handed hammer poster for their first 2 points. So that's how the game started, which was very fitting for the rest of the game, really. They were tied 64-64 at halftime. It's just go, 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 score when you play the Pacers. But, man, the end, the Pacers had a terrible turnover with 7-8 seconds left. Give the ball to Boston when Boston's down 3. They run a baseline out of bounds play and get Jaylen Brown open in the corner. Hits the 3, contested jumper with 5 seconds left, goes into OT, and the Celtics pull it out. But that Jaylen Brown shot, you got a double bang call out of Mike Breen. Just a fun first game for the conference finals. So we'll see how the Western Conference Finals go tonight. Just another fun matchup, and really with the Final Four teams, it's just fun. You got no Curry, LeBron, KD, really no stars there, and kind of the up-and-coming guys, Ant Edwards, Luka, Jason Tatum, Halliburton. The Pacers are very fun to watch because they're so different than the rest of the NBA, where the NBA, I feel like majority of teams in the NBA try to find a balance between offense and defense. For example, I think the Timberwolves, they're good offensively, but I think they're great defensively. Whereas the Pacers, I don't think the Pacers are all that great defensively, but they play so fast. They have the perfect roster construction for the way that they want to play around Tyrese Halliburton, where it's go, go, go. He's going to kick it up, leading the league in assists. They just shoot a ton of threes. They play really fast. It's really fun. And it almost gives you like a little preview into like, hey, if we played this way and just scored so many points, like, can you kind of have players who are so offensive based that aren't defensive and still get away with it and win some games? I mean, they should have won the game last night, so it's working for them, but we'll see. Let's get into the first topic today, which is Tigers. Lost again. Lost 8-3 on Monday. Lost yesterday 10-3. Casey Mize, last time that he was out, he gave up 2 runs. He gave up 8 runs yesterday. So not great. The Royals looked so good. They had 15 hits, stealing bases, 2 triples, 3 home runs, while the Tigers had 6 hits, no stolen bases. Matt Vierling had a triple, and nobody hit a home run. So they scored 3 runs in the 4th inning and didn't score the rest of the game. We talked yesterday about Torkelson being 2 of 21 with the bases loaded. He had a man at first and second with 2 outs in the 6th. Really could have used, his bat at that point. 2 outs, ground up to third, inning over. So just a pretty good example of just like they're just not capitalizing on the opportunities when they're presented to them. The Tigers were 2 of 6 with runners in scoring position, and the Royals were 4 of 7. So the Royals really just taking better advantage of the opportunities that are being presented to them when they have runners in scoring position. So I was looking at updates from last time that we had went through the roster on the first show, looking at everybody's batting averages. The Tigers now have no one batting above 300. Perez dropped to 297 after yesterday's game. For context, or for comparison's sake, the Royals have 2 guys. They got 2 guys above 300. The Royals have 4 guys with more than 30 RBIs on the season. The Tigers have 0. The Royals have 3 guys with more than 10 stolen bases. The Tigers have 0. The Tigers batters have been walked more than the Royals. Perhaps that's because they're just swinging the bat more. Who knows? But it's clear that the Royals are clearly the better team. They swing the bat more. They get on base more. When they have guys on base, they have guys behind them who will drive them in. And most of all, if you're getting guys on base, they're trying to advance them, whether it's base hits or whether they're stealing bases. I think it might be Javi, honestly, who's leading our team in stolen bases, and that was at like 6. So the Royals got 2 greater than 10. I mean, it's just so interesting to me now being incentivized to dive into these games and to look at the stats, just how much better the Royals are, which makes me wonder how good are the Guardians when they're at the top of the AL Central. But man, the Royals are solid. The Tigers are not. They're now 18-24 after they started 5-0, and they're 6-12 in the month of May. So they started off hot, and it's kind of just slowly gone down from there. 6-12. They're winning a third of their games right now this month. Every series that they play in, they're winning 1. The other team's winning 2. You're not going to make any progress on that. And as I was, thinking of things to talk about, I didn't realize that the Tigers are currently playing. And I was like, hey, you got your ace throwing. He's 6-0 right now. And as I look at, it's currently the bottom of the 3rd, and last inning, Royals had 2 doubles, scored 2 guys. They are down 2-0. So right now, Tigers not off to a great start to try to steal this 3rd one with their ace. Kansas City is 20-8 at home. Tigers are 13-12 on the road. Not off to a great start. Who knows if it's going to happen, but where do you want to see improvement on the Tigers? Is it Javi? Is it Torque? Is it AJ Hinge? Does he need to be better about the lineup? Or is this just like a roster management issue in general? Is this the front office's fault? Let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below or over on Twitter. Getting into the second topic of today, the all-rookie teams were announced yesterday. Highlighted by Vic, highlighted by Chet Holmgren. Just 2 studs, man, 2 stud rookies. But neither Ausar, Thompson nor Marcus Sasser made first team or second team. We had discussed previously the lack of success under Troy Weaver from a record standpoint, but really from a rookie standpoint, he's been decent. I mean, I like to think that he is drafted well, but I would also say it's probably too early to tell on most guys. But In 2021, Sadiq Bey made first team, Isaiah Stewart made second team. So that was the very first year of Troy Weaver. He drafted Killian Hayes before both Sadiq and Isaiah Stewart. Killian didn't make it, but Sadiq made first team, Stewart made second team. The year after, you draft Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham's rookie year, of course, he's a baller. He made first team all-rookie. The next year, 12 games into the 2023 season, Cade Cunningham goes down, shin surgery on something that had bothered him since high school. So it's the Jaden Ivey and the Jalen Duren show. Jaden Ivey maybe should have made first team over Benedict Mathurin, though they're neck and neck, I would say, at this point in their careers. And Jalen Duren made second team. So both Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren made second team. So essentially, if we don't include this past year and you're only looking at those previous years, out of all the first round picks that Troy Weaver had made in his first 3 years, only Killian Hayes was the one to not make an all rookie team. Now, adding to that list is now going to be Ausar Thompson and Marcus Sasser. So I guess to give context to just making an all-rookie team really isn't it's not a common thing, I guess I would say. So if you look in the past, prior to Troy Weaver getting here, we did not have somebody make an all-rookie team since 2013. It was 2013 when Andre Drummond and Kyle Singler, that boy could shoot it. Kyle Singler made the second team. So Drummond, Singler made the second team in 2013. And then we did not have another Piston make an all-rookie team until Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart when they were drafted by Weaver in his first year. So no Marcus, no Ausar, although Asar's brother Amen did make it. So Amen, let's go with Amen. Amen did make second team. So I think he's probably easiest to compare to. Like, hey, why didn't Ausar make it? Let's look at Amen's stats and let's take a look. So Ausar played in 63 games this year. He was really one of the steadier ones. We dealt with a lot of injuries, but I think like through the first 50 games, he had missed one. And then his season was shut down due to the blood clot. So such a scary injury, and the team was terrible. Shut him down, get his health right, make sure he's good to go from a heart standpoint, that he's ready to go for next year. So Ausar averaged 9 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists in 25 minutes. In his shooting splits, he shot 48% from the field, 19% from three, and 60% from the free throw line. So not bad from the field, really bad from three, really bad from the free throw line. To compare him to his brother, Amen averaged 10 points, 7 and 3. So Ausar averaged 9, 6, and 2. Amen averages 10, 7, and 3. He did shoot a little bit better than the field. He didn't shoot as well from three. He actually shot 14%. Ausar shot 19%. And so Amen had a little bit better production and a little bit less per game. So Amen played 3 minutes less per game. But I think the big thing for both of them, Ausar shot 58% on twos. Amen shot 60% on twos. I think the way that you build your roster around these guys is just they're non-shooters. Get them in the gym, really just get them in the corner. I think Ausar can make all of his money from the corner. All he has to do is shoot 33, 35%. And if he's not hitting, it's very easy for him to cut from the corner to be able to lob it to him from there. Most of all, though, I think you just need to use Ausar like a pick and roll big. Get him the ball in transition. We've seen him catch a ton of lobs this year. I just don't think Monty used Ausar to Asar's strengths when you just stick him in the corner. You run the Cade and Duren pick and roll. There's nothing there. Cade has to kick it out because the paint is packed. He kicks it out to Ausar, and the reason Ausar is open is because his defender is already in the paint because he doesn't respect Ausar's shot from the corner. So if he's not, you got to get Ausar in dribble handoffs, DHOs, and get him in pick and roll opportunities. Get him rolling to the basket where he can jump higher than 99% of the people that are going to be guarding him. So I just think Ausar needs to be used in a better way this next season, whether that's Monty, whether that's a new coach, we'll see. But I don't have any complaints about Ausar not making the all-rookie team. Moving on to Marcus Sasser, he played in 71 games this season. He averaged 8 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists in 19 minutes per game, and he shot 43% from the field. He shot 38% from 3. That's above average for an NBA player, and 88% from the free throw line. So he's got pretty great shooting splits. You want to see him shoot better from the field. But most of all, Sasser got hurt, I want to say it was like in the middle or end of February, and his numbers took a drop once he came back. So maybe he wasn't fully recovered. It's his first time playing 82 games. You go from a 30, 35 game college season to, twice, 2.5 times that amount of games. So maybe it's just a fatigue thing, hitting that rookie wall. But I want to point out, in the first 50 games that Sasser played in, his shooting splits were 47% from the field, 42% from 3. He was a 40% three-point shooter in his first 50 NBA games. But when he returned from injury, the last 21 games of his season, he shot 37% from the field and 31% from 3. I am of the opinion, I'm going to go with the bigger sample size and the pre-injury stats of his shooting splits of when he was shooting over 40%. I think Sasser is that kind of player. The only issue with Sasser, he was known for his defense at Houston. He's just small. He's 6'2". If you're a bench player going up against Marcus Sasser, you're targeting Marcus as a mismatch, right? You want to attack Marcus, especially if you're bigger than him, because at 6'2", he doesn't weigh much. So he could be a defensive liability in the NBA. I think he's got the effort, and I think he can do it because he did it at Houston. Just gets tough when he's got to guard somebody bigger than him. And the issue with that is I'm not sure Sasser is a point guard. Just with his play style, he's a scorer first. And so it just makes me think that he's a small 2 guard. And so you almost need like a shooting guard who's a playmaker to play with Marcus Sasser off the bench, to where on defense, Sasser is guarding the other team's point guard. But when the Pistons are on offense, Marcus is essentially playing the 2. I don't think it's a bad thing to pair him up with Jaden Ivey off the bench. If Ivey does move to the bench this next year, where you hand Ivey the keys to the bench, he's good with the ball in his hands, and then he's got Marcus to kick out to. Marcus can then worry about creating his own shot and getting shots off, as opposed to feeling like he has to get others involved in the offense, where I feel like Ivy's good at getting downhill, kicking out. He is turnover prone, but I just think with more time, he's going to get better at that. And Ivy had a weird role the entire year, coming off the bench against Killian. He started, and it was just the whole year was wonky. But I'm happy with Ausar. I mean, he's a lockdown defender. He's already one of the better defenders, perimeter defenders in this league. Just so versatile at that end. I just think it makes it difficult to play Duren and Ausar together, since neither of them space the floor. I would rather Ausar either come off the bench with Stewart, so Ausar is the only non-shooter in that lineup, or in free agency, you got to go out, get a defending stretch big that can then start. You move Jalen Duren to the bench, and then Ausar can start because your center can shoot. Let me know what you guys think about Ausar, about Sasser. What are your thoughts on their rookie seasons and how their future outlook? What do you think? What do you think their future is going to look like? Let me know in the comments or over on Twitter. For our final topic, we're going to be taking a look at the Lions depth chart. I did not include everybody at the moment because, of course, there's 90, however many players that can be at the roster at this point. So not necessarily looking at those UDFAs or anybody at the bottom of the depth chart, but really just looking at those main pieces. And I want to compare when the season ended for the Lions against San Francisco, what that depth chart look like, and then where we're at currently, and just comparing them. So looking at the QBs, not a huge difference, honestly. The big thing is Bridgewater. I think he's coaching high school ball now. He is retired, which means Hendon Hooker is your number 2. He is healthy. He can play. It would be great to see some preseason, a lot of preseason snaps out of Hendon Hooker. Now, you extended Goff for the next 4 more years of Jared Goff. I don't know the specific details of that contract, if there are partial guarantees or if they can get off his deal early. But at this point, what do you make of Hendon Hooker? Like, is he just going to be a high-profile backup? Is this a Jimmy Garoppolo situation where you can flip him to another team later and get some assets back? I don't really know, but QB room, not worried about for the foreseeable future, honestly. Goff and Hooker got that lined up. Next, moving on to our running backs. David Montgomery, the signing of David Montgomery was huge. He was so solid. He was so good for us. Jameer obviously, put all the critics of a first-round running back pick to rest. So what I did, I put Gibbs as the number 1. I thought I remember seeing something that Gibbs is going to be the starter this year, but Gibbs, Montgomery, they're both going to handle the workload. 2 new names to add to the list this year, which is Zonovan Knight, who came along. I swear he may have been on the roster last year, but maybe not. And then their 4th-round pick, I don't know how to say his name, but I know he's the dual threat safety running back. And apparently they drafted him to be a running back, and I think a special teams guru as well. We're going to see him all across the field on special teams. So if you say his last name, Vaki, I think Vaki could compete for the 3rd. Craig's been that 3rd running back for so long. I don't think you spend a 4th-round pick on a guy unless you expect him to at least compete for the 4th spot in the running back room. But maybe he makes his way up to the 3rd by the start of the season. Otherwise, love the running back room as well. Your wide receiver room, this one is real interesting. Because we are now missing Josh Reynolds. Forget where he went, but considering that we were trying to sign him to a contract and it just never worked, we must have been at a much lower number than where he went. But also, J-Mo's up, right? J-Mo's up next. He needs to take over as that top guy. You've got DPJ as your bigger, across the middle. You got Amon-Ra in the slot. You got Jameson up the sideline being the speed guy. We still have Khalif around, and we still have Antoine Green after drafting him last year. So I like the wide receiver room. I do wonder, if J-Mo goes down, if Amon-Ra goes down, the depth is just – I'm a little worried about the depth, but maybe they'll address that later on, or maybe they're just happy with where they're at. Maybe they consider, Laporta, essentially a wide receiver and aren't worried with the lack of depth. But otherwise, a bunch of studs. Glad Amon-Ra got paid. Let's keep her moving. Tight ends, not a whole lot change. Boom, boom, boom. Anthony Firkser is out. Shane Zylstra is in. Laporta is your guy. He's going to be your guy. It's just a straight stud. James Mitchell, you hope to see a little bit more of. You wonder if he can become, more of a pass catcher. Brock Wright is going to be more of your blocker. But again, essentially the same tight end room. If they're not worried about changing anything up, neither am I. I trust Brad. Let's keep her moving. Looking at the O-line. Let me zoom out a little bit here. All right. Starters last year: Deco, Glasgow, Ragnow, Jackson, Sewell. Jonah Jackson is gone. He went somewhere for like $17 million. and then we pick up Kevin for, I think, 6 or 7 million. And I've heard reports that they now think their offensive line is better than it was last year. So you're getting better. Signed Kevin to a 1-year deal. So you're probably looking at a guy down here who you're hoping can fill in that spot after this year. But if they think their line is improved and they paid less money to do it, I'm all for it. Skipper still going to be your swing tackle that comes in as an extra lineman. We've got Colby and, I forget how to say his name, Awasika, who were just depth pieces from last year. We drafted Sorsdahl last year and then picked up 2 new offensive linemen this year's draft. So Christian Mahogany, I think, was a 6th rounder, and Giovanni Manu was a 4th rounder, I believe. Manu, super interesting. Everything that you hear is just he's a freak athlete. He's massive, just a massively strong human being who eventually will find his way in, but just needs, kind of some of that fundamental help. And then Christian Mahogany from the 6th. Can play guard. Giovanni, I thought I heard before they were trying to get him or thought that he could play guard, but he's like 6'7", 6'8", so maybe he's a tackle. Is he a Taylor Decker replacement eventually? Is Mahogany the Kevin replacement next year? Not totally sure, but you have a stud O-line that only got deeper. Moving on. Looking at our interior defensive linemen, this room improved as well, which is just awesome to see. Aleem McNeil, you're next up, my guy. You're getting paid soon. We brought in DJ Reader from the Bengals, signed him in free agency. I think you hope Levi, he's just been hurt. He's been hurt a lot because, is he going to have a career here in Detroit? Is he going to get hurt again? And you just have to let him go because now you got Wingo in the background. Drafted him out of LSU in the 6th or 7th round. He was a later round pick, but defensive tackle out of LSU. That could be your Levi replacement. And then Broderick Martin drafted last year. Hopefully he continues to develop as well. Your edge room. Whole lot of the same, really. We lost Romeo Aquara, replaced him with Marcus Davenport. You keep all of the same guys. You've got your developmental guys that you drafted a couple years ago in James Houston and Josh Paschal. Continue to hope that they improve. John Kaminsky, for some reason I always call him Frank Kaminsky because that's just what I think when I see Kaminsky. Good depth piece, but really I'm excited to see Marcus across the edge from Aiden, but getting more depth at your interior defensive line on your edges, and the defensive line is an improvement from where it was last year, and it's just, you love to see it. Keep it moving. On to your linebackers, pretty much the same. Not a whole lot has changed. Anzalone, not sure how many deals that how many years on his deal that he has left, but Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Rodrigo, and then you got Germ there as our special teams ace. I think you probably address this position maybe in free agency next year. Anzalone is going to be getting older. What do you do with Rodriguez at one point? I don't know. I do think you need a little bit more depth here, but I don't think it's needed this year. Probably the most exciting part looking at this is your corners. So we had a couple people hurt during that San Francisco game. Your starters against the Niners was Cam Sutton and Kendall Vildor. Vildor, I'm almost positive, came off the practice squad last year, and Cam Sutton was a fugitive for a couple months ago, and is no longer on the team. Jerry Jacobs, he was great a couple of years ago. He was fun to root for. Still want to root for him, but he just kind of got phased out of the cornerback rotation, especially after getting hurt. But you go and you trade a 3rd rounder in this past year's draft for Carlton Davis. You sign Amick Robertson. You still have Emmanuel Mosley on the team. And then you spend your 1st and 2nd round picks on Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. You still have Vildor and Dorsey on the team from the depth that you had last year. But the idea that Vildor is going from your 2nd cornerback to now your 6th quarterback is amazing. Brad knew this was their biggest weakness, and he went and addressed it by essentially getting 3 cornerbacks in this year's draft: Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, Carlton Davis, in that order, first, second, and then traded the 3rd rounder for Carlton. Now, Carlton has 1 year left on his deal. It makes me wonder if they plan on extending him next year, or you've got your 2 guys in the wings now in Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. Maybe you expect them both to be starters. You let Carlton walk, pick up a comp pick afterwards when somebody else signs him. I would be cool with that as well. But just the cornerback room looks so vastly different, and for good reason. Brad really addressed that this offseason. Moving on to the safeties. Goodbye, CJ Gardner-Johnson. It was fun having you on the team. You're fun to root for. It's fun watching you talk shit. Sorry for cussing. And Tracy Walker, you're out of here as well. It's Kirby. It's iffy. Brandon Joseph, I don't really know who he was, but I saw him on Pride of Detroit. Moved him to the safety position as well. But honestly, don't know who he is. On top of that, your nickel, Brian Branch. Because the safety room isn't as crowded, I wonder how much safety or time Brian will spend at safety, given that the corner room is stacked. I would consider Brian a safety. You can play him at nickel corner and then keep Kirby and Iffy out there at the safeties. If you're rotating between the 2, I could see Brian out there at the safety spot as well. Just a stud. So glad that we got Brian Branch, and just his first interception, picking off Pat Mahomes, taking it back to the house. That was just such a cool moment for him. And lastly, special teams, punter, Jack Fox, straight stud, kicker, Michael Badgley. So far, do we see the Panthers kicker? I forget what his name is. The Michigan Panthers players who I'm referring to, Jake Bates. I know that their season is still going on, so he can't be signed until that's over. But given the dude is hitting 60-yarders with ease consistently, I do wonder if they eventually sign Jake Bates and get him some competition against Badgley. So, Jack Fox, you're here to stay. Badgley, we'll see. And that is it for this episode of Detroit Sports Talk. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk some Detroit sports today. Be sure to like the show, subscribe to the channel, comment below to share your thoughts on today's topics, and be sure to follow me on Twitter at Bobby Buckets. Thanks again for taking the time to tune in, and I will talk to you guys on the next episode. Peace.